Welcome to SKS Media again, guys. So we have Sujan Lama as our guest. I'm not going to talk too much about what he does because he's going to do that in a bit. But Sujan Lama, thank you so much for making it.
Thank you for having me here today.
Right. So to kick it off, also call the background news for people that's watching and don't know about you, and then we'll just start from there.
Sure. So again, like my name is Sujan. I've been here in the United States since 2005. I was like 15 and a half when I moved here with my mom and my brother. My father, he was here like long before that working, and he had us move over here from Nepal. And it's been 20 years that I've lived here. Now I say like, and I've lived here more than I've lived in Nepal. So and right now, as for work, like I'm in BioTech. From my undergrad, I got an undergrad in biology, and then I started working for a BioTech. And when I went for a master's degree in biomedical engineering, I still continue working in biotech field.
Wow, so 2005 is a long time back, right?
It is a long time.
So usually a lot of people come, at least more say I came from my undergrads. Was it the same?
No. So my father got a green card. I don't really know like the logistics behind it, but I think like back when Clinton administration was happening, like they opened the door for immigrants to get a path to citizenship. So that's how my father got his citizenship. And so we moved here when I was 15 and a half. So like I came here for sophomore year in high school. So I had just got admitted to 10th grade in Nepal. And the visa got approved. So we moved over here a few months later and then continued my 10th grade sophomore year over here.
So to US ko kura garne agadi do you just want to talk a little bit Nepal ma like he'd say where did you go to school or just a little bit background on that?
In Nepal, like I studied the first few years like a nursery, I think the to second grade, I believe, in a very small school called Chandatara. It was based in Lazimpak.
Okay.
Lazimpak, and after that, we from third grade till 10th, I would say, I studied in Galaxy Public School. That was in Ganesur, and over there, like it was a private school, so they emphasized a lot on your educations, sports, instrument, for better or worse. I'm not really good into I actually used to play guitar back then, right? And I used to play soccer and cricket too. But then when I moved over here, there was not much of scope for cricket. But I did wanted to play soccer, and I wanted to go to play soccer over here in high school. But when I joined, like everyone was like very young, and like I felt left out in the sense that like I did not fit in. So I did not play soccer, and same thing with the guitar. Like I did not touch guitar like after I left Nepal. And when I was in college, like for whatever reason, I was like, okay, let me play guitar again. So I bought a guitar. It was a very cheap guitar that I bought from eBay. And when I tried to play it, I had forgotten everything because I hadn't touched it for so many years. I got so frustrated that like I did not touch it again for another 10 plus years. And I recently during COVID, I was like, okay, let me try again.
Give it a shot again.
So I bought another like strings and everything, and then put it in and tried again. And I was like, it's like I'm still learning, I would say, but like not
but
there.
At least you're back to playing the guitar.
I'm trying to get back.
So basically, I was really middle school, high school, sophomore summer Galaxy mein garnu bhayo, right?
Yeah.
And त्यहाँबाट you came here for, I mean, when you were 15 and a half, then did your high school here again, starting sophomore year.
Sophomore, 10th grade.
So where was that?
So I came here to we went to Arlington High School.
So basically, like mass mein aunu bhayo?
Yeah, so like I've been in mass ever since. So I came here in 2005, went to Arlington High School, and around 2008, my father for a job opportunity, he moved to New Hampshire.
Right.
But then I went to college in Massachusetts, UMass Amherst. And after that, I got an internship. So I stayed in Mass. My parents were still staying in New Hampshire. And from there, I got another job. And
so before we even move there, right? Let's talk about your schooling and the transition. So 10 somewhat what was that transition like? What were some biggest differences you faced? So just cultural differences.
The culturally, like I think I was very young, so I did not have that much problem. But the surprising was that especially our education system in Nepal. Like I think up until 12th grade, I did not attend like 11 and 12, so I cannot speak it for my speak it. But I've been told from my brother and my friends who studied up to 12 that like the early primary school in Nepal is very strong. Like when I things that I learned over there in 7th, 8th grade, they were teaching here in like junior year and senior year. So high school was very easy for me. I from especially like science and mathematics was very easy. Like because I learned all of those things when I started learning science from 5th grade. Like of course that it's not advanced, but like the way they teach in Nepal is you study like biology, physics, chemistry in 5th grade. But yes, it's very basic. You learn about like cells, what is cells, in terms of the there's like what is molecule, what is matter, like very basic. But then in the 6th grade you build more into it. 7th grade they add a little bit more problems. 8 and 9, then that's like same thing with physics, right? What like you said, like what is force and things like that. And same mathematics, you learn basic arithmetic from early age, and that's where you build it over here. But over here it was like slightly different because I didn't attend an middle school, so I don't really know how it works. Right. But when I was in 10th grade, like you had the opportunity to go to like take geometry, algebra, calculus, and then you just jump into it, and then you are kind of you learn everything. Yeah. But for me, it was easy because I already had all this background. I learned. I didn't have to take algebra specifically. I already had everything, so it's very easy for me. I would say the high school ones.
So why do you think that is though? Because like even when I talk to a lot of people, obviously even me, I'm like June Podini, summer. Like they teach it sophomore year of college too, but like why do you know why that is? Or
I think it's just the like education system in that I would say not only Nepal, in like Southeast Asia, right? Like China, India, Nepal, and probably like Korea, Southeast Asia. I think it's like they especially the early primary school is very like focused on learning, memorizing. Over here, it's more of like practical basis. Right. So that may account for it. However, that being said, like I do want to emphasize that, I went to private high school in Nepal. So and over here I went to public school, which Arlington is a public school. It's a very good school, but it's public school. And when my brother had said like at one point like he was tutoring private school kids, he's saying like the math that they're learning. My older brother. Okay. Yeah, when he was tutoring like private school kids in New Hampshire. Math they were learning were like college level math. So could that play the impact private versus public? Probably it does. And from my perspective, like I attended private school and public over here, but the education there was a gap. However, I've felt it and I've heard from this like the college over here is different because in college you're learning. Now you're not only learning, now you're like implementing. You're doing the lab work, and so it's different.
So what about your school, right? Lifestyle, because you grew up in Nepal till 10th grade, and what like the biggest like culture shock and differences you saw in general?
So lifestyle, so growing up in Nepal, right? Like I came here 15 and a half. I was very, very young. Yeah. So over here, I made friends, but because I did not fit into like a certain group of people. So I had a lot of friends, international friends. I don't have a lot of especially in high school, I don't have a lot of American friends. Even in college, I don't have a lot of American friends. My college friends are from China. I have like two of my best friends. One's from China, others from Panama. We still hang out, and it's just culturally, it's different for me. And like I said earlier, I've lived here for 20 years, and I've been in Nepal for 15 years. Yeah. And one of the challenges that I feel is that I genuinely feel like a man with no country. No country. Because when I go back home in Nepal, I don't fit in. I stand out. Like when I go back, I think I went last year and like a year before that back home when I'm with my cousins and when, the street vendor, they're trying to sell stuff. They talk to me in English. And
really?
Yeah,
no.
Yes. And the moment I said
they talk to you in English?
They use a broken English, but they speak in, and when I speak, I'm like in Nepali, I don't want it. And they were like, oh, you're Nepali. and that happens like so often, and it's probably because the way I dress up, because like Nepal people, they dress up nicely, neatly. Me, I like Americans. I dress casual, whatever is comfortable. I'm wearing it. I don't have any like I can wear shorts and flip flop, and I can go wherever I want. And over here, when I come over here, I don't look American. My culture is not American. My language is not American. So I don't fit in here as well. Sure, like legally, I'm a U.S. citizen. I have a U.S. passport, but I don't feel I'm American.
So I feel like you identity crisis.
Yes.
Like a lot of people have that. But Nepal ko when you went back when Nepali Nepali right? Having Chinese and Panama friends who is your best friends and not Americans, like why do you think that is?
I think it's just like from a cultural aspect that like like our culture, like I think the Hispanic culture and Chinese culture, like it's and Nepali culture too, like it's very different in the sense that like I think like we have like our give pride to family, our own values. So I think that's where we align somewhere along that line. We align in terms of like our educations, and there we saw some alignment on that sense. Yeah,
the American culture,
American culture, like
describe it.
I really cannot put a word on that. It's because like I'm not part of it. I do not see how I do not see myself in it. That's all. Like of course, like being here for 20 years, but I don't feel American. Yes, if you look at my passport, it says like citizen of the United States, but I don't. But like, of course, like if I'm out in the crowd, I stand out. Like I always say this, and I always say this as a joke, but this is not a joke. It's like when I go to the airport, like I travel a lot. More often than not, like I get randomly searched. Like and then when yes, sure, it's like quote unquote random.
Yeah.
But like when I sit there and I look to my size, like 80% of the people that look like me, they're brown. And so then if 80% of them are brown, then it's not really random. So that's all. Like even if my passport says I'm a U.S. citizen, I don't get treated like a U.S. citizen. So there's that that's a personal challenge that the personality crisis challenge that I feel is like I don't have a country that I can
it doesn't feel like you're fully Nepali, but it doesn't feel like you're fully American. You're kind of just in the middle.
I'm in between.
Oh no, I feel like that's where I'm heading to.
Because like it's crazy. Like when I go back home, it's like I don't. Again, I cannot put a pinpoint because my Nepali is clean. Like I speak clean Nepali. I don't have that Nepali accent when I speak Nepali. But from when a random stranger, like street vendor, comes talk to me, they use broken English and they try to think that I'm a foreigner. But
it is what it is. Yeah. So let's talk about the transition from high school to Oslo college life. So what did that look like? Where did you go? What did you study?
This is actually a very interesting story, and not that many people know about it. So my grandfather, my grandfather, not my father. All my grandfather and his cousins and brother, were all in army. Some were in British Army, some were Indian Army, some were Nepal Army. So when I came over here, I actually wanted to get in Army. I wanted to be a Marine. Like over here, like in high school, I signed up to join a Marine. But I was like 15, like I said, I was 15 and a half years old, or like probably back then I was like around like maybe 16 years old. And then I signed up. I even went to like give written exams and everything. But then for medical exams, because I wasn't of age, they needed my.
What was the age?
I think it was like 18? Probably like maybe like 17 and a half, 18. Like I don't know off the top of my head, but I wasn't of age, and they needed my parents' signature. And I asked my mom and dad, like, hey, can you sign this paper? And they absolutely refused it. They're like, we're not signing this paper. They're like, you're not going to an army. So I did not want to go to college. I wanted to be in army. It's because like because my grandfather was in military. So I wanted to follow his footsteps. I don't know if it was follow his footsteps, but it's just that all this watching army movies was in my head that I wanted to do something for my country, even though I was serving in the U.S. Army, not Nepal Army. So I wanted to do that, and both of my parents absolutely refused to sign it. And then like, so I wasn't gonna like, waste my life. So I applied to a few colleges and I got to UMass Amherst. And by the time like, the legal age, again, I don't know off the top of my head, maybe it has changed. By the time I was of legal age, I was already enrolled in college. I already had
Legal
friends.
one, like
18, it's like 18, 19, where
not legal to drink.
Legal
just
to legal where they did not need my parents' signature. So US Marine reached out like, hey, like now you can, do it yourself. Do you want to join? And then by then I was already in college. I had already paid tuitions. I already friends, and I was like, no, it's okay. So although like my life would have had a completely different trajectory if my parents had signed that paperwork. But because they did not, and I went to college and I did my undergrad in biology. And I was also interested in science. Like I was always interested in science more than in mathematics or any other subject. And out of all this like branch of science, biology was always one that always was interesting to me. So that's why I did my undergrad in biology in UMass Amherst.
So I feel like this is actually a really good question to ask. Including myself, freshman, everybody goes to college and they don't really know what they want to study, right?
Yep.
So for me, I was like, oh, I want to do accounting. 1 year in, I was like, I hate accounting.
Yeah.
I'll do this, I'll do that. So did you always know that you wanted to get into biology, or what did that look like? How did you?
So the moment I decided that I was going to college, like when my military path was blocked by my parents, the moment that I knew I was going to college, I knew I wanted to go to biology. And at one point, like, I thought about like, going for pre-med track as well, go to med school. But after a while, I was like, that it's, I don't want to do that. I want to stick with the biology. But like I did not go to college as undecided. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially kids these days. I always say kids these days because I feel I'm old. but when there's like, a younger people, like when they want to go to college, and I think even if they want to go undecided, I don't see a harm in it. It's because you do have like, you go in, you explore what you like, what you don't like, and make a decision for yourself. Like that way, you don't regret what you are doing. If you, especially again, like I think coming from a Nepali background and especially like Southeast Asia, like our parents have a lot of say in like what you should study and what you should not study. They don't give a like as value to arts major or like English or history major. But at the end of the day, like you are the one that's living the life, right? So yeah, you want to study what you are happy with. Sure, if you certain major may not earn enough, but that would be his or her decision to do that. It'd be like, okay, instead of like setting up a major and not doing well that your parents picked for you, whether it's mathematics or engineering or computer science, then you follow your passion. Hopefully, that will lead to a better future. But even if it does not, then like I always say, like it was my decision. If anything goes wrong, it's because of me. Like so I will not blame on anyone else. So I don't think it's anything's wrong with it being undecided. And also, it's also like if you go in, you change the major once, twice. There's nothing wrong with that too. Like it's always knowing what you want to do is as important as knowing what you don't want to do.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because right now, like I take a lot of co-op students from Northeasterns and a lot of interns too. And I always tell them it's a great opportunity because you're not trying to learn. You're trying to see if you enjoy doing what I do, enjoy doing what you're doing. If you're not enjoying this, you have opportunity to make a change, right? So it's so again, knowing what you don't like is as important as knowing what you want to do as well. I think I absolutely believe in that.
Just for people that's watching and they might be like, oh, Bonnie, but like, why is it so important?
Because think about it, right? Like if you don't know what you are doing, then you're just moving around in life, like jumping from one topic. Okay, I'm doing this today. I want to be a computer science major. A year from now, like you may suck at it, sorry, right? But like if you're not interested in it, you're not giving your 100% focus, right? Then you suck at it. Then you may go, oh, let me try engineering because your parents think like engineering is good major, or you think like your friends are doing a major, and then now you jump on engineering. Now you're wasting another year and a half of your life, and then you move around. Like so So even if you jump from like one to another not knowing, that's fine. Yes, you're wasting a year here, you're wasting another year, but like but when you go out of the college like with a degree that you enjoy, whether it's computer science, whether it's art history, or whether it's music, you will do things that you enjoy. And because life is the longest thing that you're gonna do, and you want to be doing something that you enjoy. You can be like, it's good to be. I think this is. I heard this from some like a podcaster that I saw. I don't remember where. It's like something along that line is. Now, what he said was, you don't want to be. If you do something that your parents forced you, or like you're doing half-hearted, you're going to be average. Yeah, you'll be like, if I don't enjoy science, I'll be an average scientist. If I don't enjoy like coding, I'll be an average coder. But if I focus, if I enjoy it, regardless it's art, music, if I'm passionate about it, I may come out as like one of the best musicians out there. I may come out as the best researcher out there. So I think that is why that if you know what you don't want to do, it's fine. Find what you're interested in and put 100% focus on it and be good at it. Don't be average on something that you don't enjoy. Be good, be best at something that you enjoy.
You do enjoy.
Yeah.
Wow, that is some gold. So you found that biology was what you wanted to do, and then what take us to work?
Stanford, like my life is changing in a way because I went to the BioTech and I went to UMass for biology. Yeah. And then I always knew I wanted to further my education. Like I didn't know if I was going to get PhD or not, but I knew I wanted to go to grad school. So I went to grad school for biomedical engineering and biotech. It's because the same reason, I like science and I also like that. I enjoy that. So that's what I wanted to combine a little bit of that. It's slightly different than what I expected, but it was like I did master's in biomedical engineering and biotech. So I enjoyed that. And one thing that I always tell the co-op students is, especially if you're going in science field and you want to go to grad school, I always tell them get a PhD. A lot of my coworkers when I was going to my master's, they also like, Susan, get a PhD, and I did not. And now I always tell them it's like you should get a PhD.
Really?
Yes. Especially because like our scientific scientists feel like there is it's wrong, but maybe it's for a right reason. There's a hierarchy in if you have a PhD, you have a higher ceiling. If you don't have a PhD, your ceiling is there's only so much growth you can have. Yes, especially there are very few cases that I've worked for probably 12, 13 years in the industry. I've never seen a single non-PhD director level in 15 years. Are there any non-PhD director VP? Probably there are. There are probably a handful, but I haven't come across a single non-PhD director or VP.
So also you high ceiling thing, what do you mean by that? Why?
Because you get overlooked for promotions, your ideas get overshadowed. I have left a job because of that. Several years back, there was a company that I did an interview on, when we do interviews, we have to do some presentation. And they asked me to, because that was going to be a lab-based job, they asked me I want this presentation to be more technical. So I said, sure. So I made up a presentation and I did a presentation and, they loved it. They sent an offer. I joined them. And then a few months later, there's hey, Sujan, there's this molecule that we are having a problem. We want you to fix this. And I tried many things, and I'm like, okay, a lot of different techniques. None of them work. They they didn't have I didn't have a mentor at that point, the manager, because they were also trying to fill that position. So they hired a contractor and a consultant, I would say, a consultant contractor to guide me. And everything that technique that he was telling, I was yeah, I read that last week. Here's the data. It didn't work out, right? And then I told him, okay, what's the deadline at this? I think it was in December. Okay, so I went back to square one and I we did the whole experiment separately, and I delivered the project on time. And then I went back to the VP, and then like even and it's like, hey, this problem that you are having, it can be easily solved by making certain changes on the way that you're designing a molecule.
Right.
And not only that, like I don't know if you remember this. My presentation that I did for this job interview was for something very similar to this.
Really?
And they were like, yes. And I told them, like, hey, I understand, like, this molecule is already at a point that you may not be able to make any changes, but next molecule, we should definitely think about it. Did not happen. Year and a half, they were like, yeah, like we don't want to make any changes. Year and a half later, we had a new director in protein engineering team. Great guy. Still in touch with him. He pitched the exact same idea,
and they changed it.
They were like, oh, this is a great idea.
No way.
Yeah, exact. And then that was the moment I decided, okay, I'm done here, and I gave my notice. And I like, of course, I applied, I got another job, and I gave my notice because that was the fact. I was like, and when I think about it, what could be the reasoning? Like, not only I told them, I did a presentation on the exact same thing, and I'm like, okay, if my ideas are not valued, I don't want to be here.
So, do you think the reason was because of the PhD?
That's what I believe.
I mean,
because it came from a director who has a PhD, and the other ideas came from a non-PhD scientist, someone who's been working in the lab, not working in making like designing the molecule. So maybe something like that. So I think that carried, like, someone with a PhD saying it carried a lot of weight. So they made the change so fast, and I'm like, okay, I see it. And then I started looking, and I think like a month and a half later, I put in my notice, and it's like, thank you for the opportunity, but I'm leaving.
You're moving on.
Yeah.
So also the master's got you, right? Do you do your PhD now? Or
No, I did my master's, and I thought about getting a PhD multiple times, but during a lot of different situations, I decided not to do it.
So, well, let's talk about professional life. Right?
Sure.
So that was your schooling. Let's start from the beginning. Also, professional life. How did you start bio? Any internships, first jobs, all that.
So first, let me say this: like, what you are doing is amazing work, man. Like, I wish when I was 13 years ago, if someone had this kind of opportunity for a Nepali student, my life would have been so much easier. I think like what you're doing for next group of like young Nepali students, even for BioTech, and I know you're doing for IT and account, like all other subjects. I think it's great work, because early on, like getting that first job was so difficult. It's still, I get it, it's still difficult, but that networking does not come easy, especially for some people. Like maybe some people are more extroverted, so maybe they can connect easy, right? But some people, they're very introverted. It's harder for them. I'm like somewhere in the middle. I'm neither too extrovert, not too introvert, but I'm somewhere in the middle.
Ambivert. Yeah, ambivert. They don't use word.
Yeah. And back then, like, there was not that. Not that many. There wasn't any Nepali student-focused networking. There used to be. I think it still does. Like BioTech Tuesday. It's a networking event, but again, like not too many people knows about it, and also it's. Also, it's not really geared towards that like fresh off the college students either. My first job, like I did a few internships in college, but like even to this day, like I applied for, like probably 50, 70 jobs in a week. Like at home, I would stay home.
Internship ki full time quality.
Anything. If I see a internship, I would apply for internship. If I like mass bio, I would apply there. I go to the like I think back then it was like Monster.com, and then I think I don't know if Indeed was big back then, but I would apply to like 50 to 70 jobs in a week, nothing, and that's when I started like, networking. Like I made up with this Harvard business professor. So he connected with me like few of his students, like.
And just to clarify, this is also school when you
no, after college, after I finished my undergrad.
Okay, so let's talk about internships first. So I'm guessing also internship to college, right? So how did you land your first internship? What did that look like?
Oh, that was like that was an interesting internship. So this was in a plant lab and soil lab in UMass Amherst, and I got that from school internal work studies, and it was a summer internship, and I think it's probably because I wasn't really interested in plants. When I joined the internship, I did not know what they were doing. I did not, and I also I was young too. I did not really pay attention either. And at the end of the they were looking for this turf grass, and then problem that turf grass was kind of like a dollar spot, like the fungus that would eating up those grasses. And we would go pick up the samples, and I would not be able to tell difference between one grass to another. I was completely they all look the same to me. That was 2010 or I was probably my junior year or something. It was 2011. I couldn't tell the difference between one grass and another. Yeah, and this is why I always say it's important to know what you don't want to do, and that's what I know. I don't want to work in a plant, anything to do with plant. I cannot tell a difference. Even to this day, when sometimes when my mom's like, "Hey, can you buy so and so vegetable?" She always tell me in Nepali, I have no idea what vegetable is. I can tell what cauliflower looks like, what cabbage looks like, and cilantro, and few ones but the other ones, I have no idea what they are. And then when I go to the grocery store, I FaceTime her and I tell her, "Is this what you want?" So that was my first internship, and it's more like in that internship I learned what I did not like, and I did not like that. And I did another. I would not say it was internship. It was more for work study in a chemistry lab. And that wasn't any research, but it was just helping out the TAs and everyone. And after that, I finished my undergrad, and I was at home. Like I said, summer, I was I want to take a year off. So I did took a year off after undergrad, and I kept applying to jobs after jobs, and then nope. And then that's where I started working. Like I said, this Harvard business professor.
Right.
That was my first connection. He connected with someone from Sanofi.
But how did you find the Harvard?
So, that was from my mom's. I think my mom's employer. She used to work with them. So you started networking with him. And he connected me with his Harvard business, being a Harvard business school. He had a lot of students who was in the science field. So he connected me with one who had his own startup. And then another one in Sanofi, and then I connected with the person in Sanofi. He's because you are early in your career, you should look for a smaller startup. But he connected me with another person. but then one of the students from the Harvard business professor, who had his own startup, he's we can start up with the internship, 3 months internship through Mass Bio. So I was like, okay, that's a great opportunity. At least someone's giving the opportunity. So. That 3 months became a full-time job, and I stayed there for almost 3 years. And after a year, I went to my master's, and I was still working full-time and getting my degree at the same time because the classes were in the evening, and one of my classes were in the afternoon. So I talked with my manager at the point, and also the CEO, Ian Chen. I was like, hey, listen, I'm going back to school. I will make sure the work is not impacted on this day that I'll come early, I'll leave early. But if for whatever reason, if the work is not completed on the day, I'll come back after my classes, or I'll come on the weekends and I'll get the work done. And both my manager at that point and the CEO, they agreed. It's yeah, that's it's free education, and that's why I went full-time undergrad, full-time grad school, and full-time job. So, and after 2 years, I finished my degree, and at that point, I also decided that I needed to learn more in what I was doing. So from industry lab, I went to work in Dana-Farber. It's academic lab, and that was a conscious decision that I made.
Before we move on to stage one, I have a question. So. A lot of times, I think people say, bachelor's talking with master's, right? Or before you start working. But then also you worked for 3 years and then did master's at the same time. So What's your thoughts on that? Agadi गर्नुपर्छ पछाडि गर्नुपर्छ like does it matter at all?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I took a year off, and then the last 2 years, and after a year off, I went to full-time job and full-time college, right? But if someone wants to go directly to masters, great, because especially these days, a lot of colleges have this +1 program.
Yeah.
I think Northeastern has that, right? Like you'd finish your four year, and then you take 1 extra year, and you get a master's degree in 5 years. If someone wants to do that, great. I don't think it's like if someone wants to take like 2 years off and wants to do whatever he or she wants to do and go back to school, like I don't want to judge anyone on their choice, as long as like he or she makes the choice by themselves. So there's no right or wrong answer. You want to take a year off, take a year off. You want to take a year off to travel, assuming you can afford, do that. That will give you so much insight when you travel as well, right? Like
in what way though?
Like you get exposed to so many different cultures. You get exposed to like this was one of the this brings me like so we're digressing, right? Because when you get exposed to so many different cultures, like the people have no idea like how they live life. There was a paper that I had to write for my undergrad for psychology. It was my gen ed class. And I think the topic was something along the line of like poverty and something along that line. And I wrote a paper based on what I had seen poverty in Nepal.
Wow.
And when I wrote the paper, the comment my professor gave was like, that was very insightful, because over here, like, yes, there are a lot of homeless people over here too. But, comparatively, I think it's not a lot if you compare to percentage-wise. And even then over here, like government actually provides them, food stamp, some sort of some sort of help. Sure, a lot of time like people who are homeless over here, like have some mental problems. Some have goes through this sinkhole of like losing a job. There are a lot of impacts. But back in Nepal, right over there, especially at the time that when I was growing up, we did not have that the whole thing about like mental health. Mental health was not a topic when I was growing up.
Yeah.
We would see someone out in the street and we would call them pago, which means he or she is mentally like crazy. When I came over, then I was like, oh, he or she may have a mental problem. Like they could, I don't know what are the problems, but we, like I said, we didn't even know, like mental health was not a thing. They didn't taught in school. Anyone who behaved abnormally, we call them pago.
Let's break it down, right? Like, why do you think that might? I don't know the right answer, but why do you think like that is? Like, I'm culturally got that Nepal,
culturally, bhanda pani, I would say lack of education. Because we even US, like that like the mental health is important. That whole thing is gaining traction in the last, I would say, 10-15 years. And prior to that, like even over here, like it may be a little bit political statement, but like before that, like even in US, they would consider like being homosexual was a mental disease. But now they have said, okay, it's not a mental disease; it's a choice. That if choice that he or she wants to, that's the kind of lifestyle they want to do. And maybe I'm not using the right word, but we do not see that as a mental disease anymore. We do like someone over here, like 10 years ago, someone with a bipolar disorder, someone with a multiple personality disorder, right? They were all seen as like crazy. They were pago, like they would be in a mental institute over here. But now with the medications, with all things, like they are living good life. So I would say like the lack of education was the main thing, is because like even in school, no one taught us like about mental health. No one taught us like depression is a thing. No one taught us like no one taught us about that. So if there was no one to teach you that, like this, how am I supposed to learn as a kid? The only way I learned is either from school or from my parents. My parents also went to the same school. They didn't learn anything, and the teacher were also like learning the same, old research. So I think that was the main thing. Like it's I would say like the education. I would not say like maybe some like there was some ignorance that was involved, but like I would say overall it's lack of education, and that point, right? It's not because I'm saying okay, Nepal is only the problem, right? Over here, US saw a lot of things like European countries. They saw like homosexuality, and they saw like depression as not a big thing. It's like it's like you can think about it and get out. Like willpower. That's that was a thing over here like a few years ago. It's just like recently, and a lot of the people started no, mental health is a big thing. We need to focus on mental health. Even at work these days, a lot of time there's like a mental health thing because they emphasize that it is mental health is as important as your physical health. But and I think to be honest, like I have like a lot of friends back in Nepal that actually working on this field, and I'm very proud of them. Is they are trying to like enlighten Nepal community. It's like, hey, like, we need to think about our mental health, and like depression is not something to be ashamed about. Yeah. Like if you're like if you're depressed, you shouldn't be ashamed of it. Everyone goes through it. Anxiety, like it's part of life. So I think that is also I see that happening in Nepal. Like some of my friends is taking initiative on that, and I see that they're posting on Facebook, and it gives them immense joy and pleasure to like yeah, it's happening. It's happening. Yes, it's happening at a slower pace, but at least it's happening. And that's all we can expect. Right? We cannot expect our society to change overnight. It will take time, and I think we are heading towards the right path.
So about before we go to Dana-Farber, Dana-Farber. So originally you mentioned that you got your first job through networking, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't through applying. So let's talk about that. Yeah. Do you think networking is the way to get a job, or is it like what factors in?
I think networking is one of the way for sure, especially because like when you apply, right? Like even when I was there, when I was early in my career, entry-level position, 0 to 3 years. They ask for 0 to 3 years.
Oh my God, right? That's so true. And it's weird, no?
Yeah, like a lot of time, like, and I have got to like when I was applying to like so many jobs, there were times I got into the interview. I ended up, thank you for coming. We really enjoyed talking with you, but we ended up going with someone with like experience. Of course, like I get it. Like if you're putting someone with zero experience and someone with like 2 or 3 years experience, they are gonna hire someone with experience. I totally get it, but then without getting that, without being able to do the work, how am I supposed to get a job, right? So the few things is like the internship, and you got to do as many internship as you can in college. Do co-ops. I think Northeastern has one of the best co-op programs in Massachusetts colleges that I've seen, and networking. Because with networking, like I said, my first job was not through like my first job was from networking, and from networking I got that like 3 months. Someone took a bet. It's like, okay, I'll give you a chance. Yes, it was 3 months, and I made the best out of that 3 months, and then turned into a full-time position. So I think it's very important, especially for students, especially for students who do not have a lot of that experience in their resume, whether it's internship, co-ops, or some sort of experience in the resume. I absolutely like networking, and a lot of that, like over the years, like networking for me has changed. Like I mentioned BioTech Tuesday, right? I used to go there, but now, like for me, like I network mainly in conferences. When I go to conference, I attend the talk and I talk to people, scientists. That's how I do networking. So that's how I said earlier, it's like, what you are doing for Nepali students is, I wish someone had done that for me 13 years ago.
So about networking, let's digress.
Yes.
Right? A little bit more, right? So you are daile malai there's a student reached out to me, भेट्यो अनि refer गरिदिनु है कम्पनीमा भन्यो. So at that point I realized, oh, that's not networking, right? So what does good networking look like? And what is bad networking to me?
So I mean, I would say like that. Yeah, like that. I would not say like just refer me, right? And like
Like if a student was to actually properly network with
for me, the proper networking is like, I want them to say, come and say like, hey, I'm interested in XYZ. I want to I'm passionate about so and so, like talk to it, and then like it's like, hey, is there uh, uh, someone that you can connect me within my organization with someone organization. I appreciate that. I also appreciate when students like take initiative. Like there are a few students like who sends me LinkedIn messages, like some people who are applying for co-op, and they send me messages first, saying like, hey, I'm interested in your co-op position that you posted. And when that's those initiative, like when I get the resume where it's like 20, 30 something resume, I look for that name first. Like even when you're networking, like take initiative, talk to the person, find out what he or she is doing, find out what you're interested in, and try to guide a conversation that like he or she maybe, or I may be able to help you. Like if you come tell me like, hey, can you send me a job reference from, yeah, there's like hundreds of job reference job in my company, right? How can I tell you like which one is good for you?
Yeah.
You should know, like you should do all the homework. Like after you talk to me, after you have that connection, it's like, hey, I saw this position. I think I'll be a good fit. Can you? And also like and I always tell them like previously when I was working in a smaller company, I'll be like, sure. The best I can do is I can put your resume in front of the hiring manager. Now I'm I'm working for one of the largest company in the world, but I don't know the hiring manager. So the best I can do is I can send your reference. So that and after that, like there's nothing I can do about it. But if you are passionate about it, and if you but if you take time to dig in and so like, hey, like I want to apply for this job. It's on this department. Do you know someone in that department? I may not personally know someone in the department, but I can ask like, hey, like my team leader. So like, hey, like, do you know someone in this team? Or like recently, I needed to get some project done with the team in San Diego. I have no idea who worked in San Diego. I never met any of them. So I connected with my boss. My boss connected with someone else, and then like, so that's like one way to go. You cannot expect me to like take your resume and put a high mess because I don't even know them.
Yeah.
But if you tell me like, okay, he or she, like this person is working on this, I'm interested in, can you help me connect with him? Then that's a conversation that you are guiding, and I'm just being mediator.
Yeah.
So like, okay, you know where to go. Now I'm just connecting the dots for you. Like, okay, you want to get to that person? I'll try to see who I know that person.
So, right? What if let's say 20 people do the same thing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
20 people do the same thing. So how do you build that relationship? Out of the 20, you're the one that you're instantly guiding to the person, whoever should be guided to. Like how do you build that trust with?
In this song, like this is a very loaded question in a sense that when people reach out to me, I make a point to reach back to them. And this is a personal choice that I have made for myself. Is because yes, I may not respond right away. I may take time, but I always, unless it's others marketing emails or like, hey, like my company's involved in this. Do you want it? Unless it's one of those sales speech, I don't. But if it's someone who genuinely wants to connections, and I read their emails. And I may not reply right away, but I always made a point to get back to them. Like, it's like, okay, if this is not the help that I can give, I was like, I think I cannot help you in this. I do that, but if 20 people are reaching out to me, I do make a point to reply to all 20 people. Not at the same time, maybe, but like few today, few tomorrow. Yes, sometimes like and sometimes like they reach out to me. I'm not the right person that they should reach out. And if I know someone the right person, I tell them like, hey, I'm not the right person, and I CC them like, so and so can help you with that. And sometimes if I don't know the right person, it's like, hey, I don't know the right person. But if you know who you want to talk to, and maybe I can help you with that. And so I try to guide the conversation for them to do the work. because at the end of the day, like it's not my responsibility for
Right.
for you to like find who we should work for, right? You should be the one like, hey, I want
Does
to
all the work.
work, and like I'm not there to do work for you. Sorry to say, right? But it should be the other way around. And and the reason, like this, I make this effort to especially help out, especially help for Nepali students, because I did struggle a lot in my early phase in my career, and like I had to network. So a lot of this, so I make that conscious effort to help other students, so that they don't have to go through what I did, or make their life a little bit easier. And also like like when I apply to like 50, 60 jobs, like, a lot of like especially these like a lot of the companies, they don't even respond back to you. And even after you do a job interview, they don't even get back to you. Hey, we saw you. They don't get. So like waiting for an answer is very painful. So that's why I make an effort to always get back to someone whenever they send me messages, whether it's through LinkedIn, whether if they have my number, I make that effort to do that to the students.
Sujan, can I say something?
Sure.
We need more people like you.
Thank you.
So okay, let's go to the how do I pronounce this?
Dana-Farber.
Dana-Farber.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, what is so now master's also cool. 5 years experience.
Yep.
Now let's start the journey from there.
So I made a moving to Dana-Farber was on purpose. I wanted to work for Dr. Edward Greenfield. That was the whole purpose of me moving to Dana-Farber. A lot of people would say like, why you left an industry job to academic? So I was like, yes, because I wanted to learn from him. So
for people that don't know who is,
so Dr. Edward Greenfield is considered like one of the pioneer in hybridoma technology field. So and back then, like my first job was in hybridoma field. I was making hybridomas and like cell purifications and protein purifications like that. So I wanted to learn more. Like yes, my technical skill set was building. I knew how to do it, but I wasn't learning like why. Like why am I doing it? Like what's the reason? I'm adding this and that. Like how is this help the cells? My skill sets technical. Someone to make me do it. Of course, I can do it. I could do it. I'll just you follow the SOP, right? But I wasn't learning that. Why am I doing what? Like, what's the purpose of this step, right? So, and there was this book that I had this like called Antibody Purification Manual or something like that, and that was like edited by Edward Greenfield. And when I looked for it, like he was working there. So I actually took a pay cut to work for him.
Wow.
Because I wanted to learn from him. And I did learn, like, I think I worked for him for about 10 months. And people was like, why only 10 months? Because like, again, remember, it's important to know what you don't want to do.
Oh,
it's like, I learned a lot. Like I learned a lot from him in that 10 months, like not a technique from a technique perspective, from the knowledge on a knowledge base. Then I learned in 3 years in the industry. But the reason that I left after 3 years has nothing to do with like with Dr. Greenfield or my work at Dana-Farber. It was just the piece of work. I wasn't satisfied with it. Like academic, right? Like I was working in it was a core lab, right? So I was making this hybridoma cells, making proteins, making antibodies for a lot of different companies that would have project for, and after that, I have no idea what happened to that molecule, because yes, we made it, we gave it to our client, and after that, I don't know, did the client push this molecule forward? Did it stay in the freezer for God knows how long? I would have no idea. That was one of the major factor. And the second factor was like I always want to try new things. If there's a new machine out there, new technology out there, I want to try it. Right? If there's anything that's making a lab efficient, right, I want it. And being in a Dana-Farber, being in an academic lab, the funding was not always available for the new equipments that you want. And that was the second thing. It's like, I wanted to try so many things, and I wasn't, I didn't have that opportunity to learn. So those two played a big factor, and I was like, okay, you know what, this is not for me. So then I went back to the industry.
10 months, what's it?
Yeah, I think it was like 8 to 10 months. And then I moved back to industry, and I've been in industry ever since. And over the last few years, like, I think I've got a really, been lucky with the, I've been working for like a great mentor, and like, it's been spoiled. It's
Bit spoiled?
Yeah, being spoiled, because like, like whenever I wanted, like, hey, this technology looks cool, I think we want to try it. Like, my manager always like, okay, let's try it. You're like, bring it in house, and then like we bring it in house, and then after that, like, okay, you like it? Yeah. Let's put up some budget, and then we'll get it. Like, we'll get it. So yeah, it's that thing. Like, and not only that, right now, like I'm working. I'm not working for a CRO. Like, it's like,
Wait, say that again.
CRO. So like a contract research company, right? Like that, like Dana-Farber, when I was that, it was a core. So we would get contract from other companies. So like, hey, make a hybrid one, make an antibody, make a proteins, and we would make it and give it to them. And after that, the company or the other lab would do all the further research. But you have no idea what happened to it. So, but when you work for a company with a pipeline, then okay, I work on this molecule. I know it's going to the, like, down the road.
Next steps.
Yeah, next step.
At least you know about
it may not make it to the market. It may not risk, but it's moving down down towards that, the end goal being in the market and going to the patients. And it may get stopped for whatever reason, right? But at least at least I knew that, hey, it did not die in the freezer. It died because of XYZ reason. It could be efficacy, like it could be like, okay, like this molecule was not as good as what's already out there. Anything, but at least I knew what was happening. So that was, those two played a major factor for me to go back to industry again. And I've been in the industry ever since.
So, timeline ko lagi चाहिँ just to make कहिले हो भन्दाखेरि
timeline, Dana-Farber was out 2015. Yeah, I think. After that, I've been in 2015. I've been in the industry ever since, and I started my first industry job in 2012. So been in 13 years.
Wow,
that shows my age, but but 13 years in the industry, and like 10 months in academic lab.
So fast forward to now.
Yeah.
Like, you started in Sydney. When was the industry started going local?
So 2015, like I work in Dana-Farber, like I think from early 2015 to end of 2015.
So, but now say, like, what is it looking like for you?
So now, like, I'm in industry. I've been very happy. Like, and I've been there's a lot of good projects I've been involved in. It's exciting. Like, I wish I could talk a lot more about it, but
okay. Let's take a step back.
Yes.
Let's take a step back. Let's touch up about your mentor. I think you were a little spoiled by your mentor.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's hard to even find a mentor.
Yes.
So if someone's trying to find a mentor, how do they go about it?
And before we get to that, let me say this, right? If you find a good mentor or a good manager or a good boss, those are more important than finding a good company you want to work for. If you have a good manager, cherish them, because there are a lot of bad managers out there. And over the last, I've been lucky enough to work for a lot of good managers, but I've also worked for bad ones too. And like, how you find it is like, there's no easy way. You join, and hopefully you can feel that out during the interview process. Because I always tell, like, whenever I'm interviewing students or someone for a full-time job or anyone, I always say, this is as much as an interview for you as for us. This is the time that you should be asking questions, so you can find out what your mentors is like. And a lot of people have different kind of experience, different kind of like leadership, different like. For me, like, I do not like someone who's watching over my shoulder. That's something that
Like micromanage.
micromanage. I do not like it. And I like when my manager is like, hey, here's a task, go do your thing. Let me fail. That is my thing. Let me fail. If I need help, I'll come find you. If I and when I do need help, then we can sit down and talk, and then by then we can talk like what I did, what I felt, and what needs to be. But the last thing I want is someone like hovering over my shoulder and telling me like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. That is not my. I do not like that, right? But that being said, there are a few people that I've known, my colleague, who wants that kind of they want to get that micromanage because they're early in their career and they don't have that skill set to or they're not confident like, hey, they are scared that if I fail, it may look bad on me. And so if you want that, it's important to flag that early. It's like if you like that kind of management style, try to figure that out if he or she is going to be like that. Because I do not like to be micromanaged. Whenever I have a co-op student or there's people that report to me, I do not micromanage either. But if they have a problem, they come to me like, hey, I'm having a problem. Then we sit down, we go over we go over your data, and we say like what went wrong. We go through every single process, and then I say like maybe you need to change here and there, and then let them do the work. And then if that doesn't work again, then I go into the lab with them and I see how they are doing it. So that's because because I don't want to because I don't like it.
Right.
I don't want to be a hypocrite and do the same thing to others. And I also I always tell, if you fail, that's not a problem. I have a co-op student right now. I always think if something does not make sense to you, do it again. It's not gonna cost a lot of money for the company, and do it again. If it's still okay, do it the third time, and then come to me and say, show me what you did and where and what went wrong. And if you have the answer, great. If you don't have the answer, then we can sit down and talk about it. Right? I also don't, even when I'm when my boss is I have no problem failing. A lot of time I don't get it right for the first time. I try it, something doesn't work, and then I tweak on it. That's how you develop, whether it's an experiment, whether it's developing your essay, whether you're setting up completely new technology in-house. There's a lot of trial and error. You got to fail to get there. A lot of times, I'm reading papers and trying to replicate that experiment in-house, right? And if that doesn't work, I go back. It's let me see did I make the right molecule? Yes, I made the right molecule. Is everything's correct? Is the temperature is the same? Is every parameter the same? I try to cross element as much as I can.
So we're actually towards the end of the podcast, But right? So for all the students and young professionals watching, if you could give them one or two pieces of advice, and you've already given a ton of advice, but if you could choose one or two big advices to give, what would it be?
I would say, ask questions. When you go for a job interview, ask questions. Ask questions. When I say not just random questions what's the culture like, or what's the vacation like? No, don't ask. Ask if you're especially going for startup, right? You want to focus on their ask questions what are their finances like? Read about their startup. What are they working on? How much they have raised in Series A, Series B funding. Ask them hey, I noticed that you guys have raised XYZ amount. What is your plan? What's the bandwidth? How long is this going to go on? And ask about what is the how can you help me to develop for my personal development? Am I allowed to go to the conferences? Because as a working professional, I don't always get to read a lot of papers and be on top of everything that's going on out there. The only way, not the only way, the best way for me to be on top of my game is that I go to the conferences, I attend the lectures, I see new technology, I see what my colleagues are doing in the similar field. That's how I learn, and I try to bring that technology back into my company. So find those information, try to see like if you can fit well into the organization that way. I think that's the biggest advice that I can give them. And also, like, this is advice that that Harvard business professor gave me, and I'll tell a lot of people is that when you're early on in your career, right, like try to have that horizontal growth. What I mean by horizontal growth is like, it's like, that's the reason that, like, I made a point to stick with startup, is because you get to wear a lot of different hats. Someday I'm working on like different techniques, but next month I'm working on completely different techniques. The reason is that, like, a small startup, it's a very high pace. Everyone is, focused on getting to the goal, right? And over there, like, you are learning so many things. Yes, you may not be mastered at any of them, but you learn a lot. And then, you have a lot of time left over the years to have that, like, the term that I was used was needle growth. Once you have your good solid base, like you have learned a lot of different things, then focus on one thing. Like, like if you, and a lot of people who wants to go to large pharma right away, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. But if you do that, you have that needle growth, because in the large pharma, you're in a certain team and you will be doing that same task day in, day out. But that's not the case in the startup. So have a horizontal growth in the early first 5-10 years of your professional life. And after that, you can focus on finding one niche, things that you want to be expert at it, and then go for it.
Wow. Okay, now a little twist, a different question.
Sure.
If you were to go back in time and change a few things,
I talk about this all the time.
I don't have regrets, but no. Change a few things. What would it be?
Like, I have whenever I talk with my friends, like, in my friend circle, like, I'm the only one who's in a biotech. I've got like a few, but like, there's like different, slightly different in the biotech field. So a lot of so if I could go back, I would do computer science.
Really?
The only reason I do it is because, like, the COVID and the work dynamics have changed so much, is because, like, if you have a computer science major, right, like, this is the flexibility to work from home. That is great, man. I spend on average 1 hour on a road to go to work, so 2 hours on average a day on a road. Last week it took me an hour and 40 minutes to go from home to my work. 1 hour 40 minutes in, 1 hour back home. That's almost close to 3 hours of my life that I'm wasting in my car. So going back, yes, I would be in a computer science, knowing that COVID was going to happen, that this thing, work from home, is going to be a thing. I would have done that. Maybe unpopular, maybe unpopular among a lot of viewers, but work from home has been a boon for a lot of people. And I think it's like COVID changed a lot of different things. It changed my view.
Oh my God. Well, that's pretty much the end of the show. Let's say for the viewers, let's say biotech students or younger professionals, can I just attach your LinkedIn in the description so they can connect with you?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to help any young students who wants to connect and who's looking for a job out there. I'm always happy to help them.
But don't just send a connection request and say, can you send a referral? Do your homework.
Yeah.
Everything, and then move forward with it. But anyways, Sujan, the exciting part, we're actually trying to make this a ritual. So we have a rapid fire round. I'll ask you 7 to 8 questions, very relaxed questions, but you got to be on your toes. First question, best Nepali restaurant in Boston?
I think if you're talking from Nepali food, like Momo specific, I find Jay's Momo very good. But I think if you're talking about overall, like, vibe and everything, Ayla, how we pronounce it, I do enjoy there, because they're geared more towards, like, Newari ethnic food. So I enjoy Ayla, but if you're talking about Momo, I like Jay's Momo.
Jay's Momo. That's a good answer. Your second question, one thing you miss the most from Nepal?
Food. And the reason is that, like, even like I told you, right, I try to go back almost every other year. I went last year, 2 years before that, I'll go back. I cannot eat the street foods over there. I miss street foods back home. Yes, it's not very hygienic, but there they taste so good. That's the one, yeah.
The third question later. One food that you really like but can't find in the US? or it's hard to find in the US?
Authentic, are you talking about Nepali food or Nepali? Okay. I would say like this is would be very, it's like very authentic, good momos. There's a place, I think everyone in Kathmandu probably know, Sandar Momo. There's a place called Sandar Momo. I wanted to the momo and their like jol is like everyone knows about. It's like a white jol with like green cilantro on it, and I want to try that one more time. I haven't had it.
Oh, that's a good choice. So, favorite Nepali festival to celebrate in Boston or Massachusetts for you?
So,
and why?
I think Dasai. In over here would be Dasai, but back in Nepal I would like say like the Tihar or Holi. But over here is Dasai is because like I get to see all my family and sit down, enjoy the day. We play cards. Like Dasai is incomplete without cards.
Okay, so if your friends or family ever visit Boston, what's the first place you take them in Boston?
So I've done this, and I think everyone does this. Is like everyone takes them like to Harvard Square at some point because that was the first place that my father took us on the first year, and that's this is Harvard University, and that statue with like I think John Harvard the statue with like I think that's the first place that I was taken to by my father, and I probably would take my friends.
So, best Nepali song for homesick days.
Oh my God, there's so many good ones out there. But based Nepali songs, I would say 1974 80 go. I enjoy. I think I enjoy the Parelima, and the other one is Sambodam.
Oldies.
By 1974 80.
Oldies. Okay. Yes. First Nepali word you would teach your non-Nepali friends or phrase.
I think this would be Namaste.
No, besides Namaste. Namaste is too common. Besides Namaste.
Then I would say like the things that I've taught them is like how are you?
Okay, so last question.
Yeah.
One thing about Boston life every Nepali should know about.
I would say, if you Boston life, like, you got to enjoy winter if you're going to live in Boston, you got to enjoy winter over here. Like if you do not enjoy, have some passion or hobby ever for winter as well. Because the weather over here, like, the 4 months, it's going to get cold, it's going to get dark. So if you do not, have that mindset of like, hey, I want to do something during the winter, you will not have a good time in Boston. Because this nice sunny day will not last.
And that is a wrap. Yeah. That is a wrap.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, guys. So that is the end of the episode. If you enjoyed it and want more guests to come and share their insights and stories, please,
you gotta like, comment, and subscribe to this channel.
SKS Media.